They threw her body into the river at midnight, and the river threw it back. Not once, not twice, 3 times. The water rejected her the way a mouth spits out something bitter, something it knows should not be swallowed. And the people who stood on that riverbank, the ones who had put her there, the ones whose hands were still wet from the current, they ran. They ran and they did not look back. Because in Oguta, in the old village of Amafo, in Imo State, Nigeria, when the river refuses a body, it means the dead have something to say. My name does not matter. What matters is what I saw. What matters is what this village did and what the river said back. Amafo is a small village. It sits at the edge of the Oguta Lake, where the water runs so still on some mornings that it looks like God stretched a mirror across the earth. The old ones call it Odo Ife Oma, the river of good things. They say the river has memory. They say it remembers every name of every soul that has ever crossed it. And they say, they have always said, that the river does not lie. Adaize Okoye was 26 years old. She was the kind of woman this village did not deserve. Tall, quiet, with hands that were always busy, cooking, farming, braiding, building. She had a smile that came slowly like sunrise. Not the kind of smile that performs, the kind that is real. Her mother, Mama Chidinma, was a widow who sold akara by the roadside every morning. Her younger brother, Emeka, was 15 and studying hard because Adaize had promised that he would go to university. She worked 2 jobs to keep that promise. She carried that promise like some people carry firewood, on her neck, on her back, without complaint. But Adaize had a secret so deep, even the river did not know it yet. Or maybe it knew before anyone else. His name was Chukwuemeka Ngosu. Everyone called him Emeka Senior, the rich Emeka, the one with the Toyota Hilux and the generator that ran all night when the whole village sat in darkness. He was 41 years old. He was married. His wife, Ngozi, was a quiet woman who looked at the ground when she walked. People said she had been beautiful once, before the marriage broke her. Emeka Senior had been watching Adaize for 3 years. He watched the way a hawk watches from the sky, patient, calculating, certain of what it wants. He came to her mother's house with bags of rice. He came with envelopes. He said he wanted to help the family. He said he saw potential in young Emeka, the boy. He said he could sponsor his education. Mama Chidinma was not a foolish woman, but she was a tired woman. And tired women sometimes open doors that wisdom would keep shut. Adaize said no. Once, twice. The 3rd time Emeka Senior came to that house, he did not bring rice. He brought a document. He told Mama Chidinma that her late husband, Adaize's father, had borrowed a large sum of money from his family years ago. He placed the paper on the table. He said the debt had not been repaid. He said there were ways to settle it. He looked at Adaize when he said it. Adaize sat very still, the kind of still that is not peace, the kind of still that is a person deciding between 2 hells. What nobody in Amafo knew, what nobody in the whole of Oguta knew, was that Adaize was already pregnant. Not by Emeka Senior, by a young man named Tobena. Tobena was a teacher, primary school. He earned little money, but he had a big, honest heart, and he loved Adaize with the kind of love that does not make noise, but never leaves. They had been together in secret for 2 years, because Tobena's family, the Okafo family, had an ancient quarrel with the Okuye family, a land dispute, 40 years old and still bleeding. If anyone found out, both families would have burned the relationship to the ground. So they met in silence. They loved in silence. and now she carried the child in silence. When Adaeze told Tobena about the pregnancy, he held her face in his hands and said, "We will face it together. I am not afraid." He said they would go to his uncle, the one in Owerri, who had broken from the family quarrel. He said they would marry quietly, start fresh. He said, "Adaeze, I swear on my father's grave, I will not abandon you." She believed him. She had no reason not to. But the next day, Tobena's mother came to know. Nobody knows how. Nobody ever knows how in a Nigerian village, but these things travel faster than wind. Tobena's mother descended on his son like thunder. She cried. She threatened. She said she would die before she allowed an Okoye woman into her household. She said the child was probably not even his. She said these things with her whole chest in front of neighbors so that the shame could travel. And Tobena, the man who had promised on his father's grave, went quiet. He stopped calling. He stopped coming. For 11 days, silence. Adaeze waited. On the 12th day, she walked to the school where he taught. She stood outside the gate. He saw her. He looked at her the way a man looks at something he once wanted, but has decided to pretend he never did. He turned around and walked back inside. That was the last time she ever saw his face in daylight. People say grief makes some people loud. Adaeze went silent. She stopped eating much. She smiled at her mother the same way every morning because she did not want Mama Chidima to carry her pain on top of her own. She still sold akara with her mother. She still braided hair on weekends. She still put money aside for Emeka's school fees. But at night, Adaeze walked. The elders of Amafo say you must never go to Odo Ifeoma alone at night. Not because of thieves, not because of animals, but because the river at night is a different river. They say the veil between the living and the dead is thinnest at the water's edge after dark. They say the ancestors sit on the bank. They say some prayers spoken at night by the river go places that daylight prayers cannot reach. Adaeze had been going to the river at night for 3 weeks, not to pray, to sit, to talk to her unborn child, to apologize. The last night she walked to that riverbank, she wore a white wrapper tied at her chest. Her feet were bare. The ground was cool with night dew. The crickets were deafening, that kind of African night noise that fills every corner of silence. The moon was full, and it lay on the river like a second sun. She sat on the flat rock, the one the village children called Neoku, grandmother stone, and she spoke. She said, "I am tired." She said, "I don't know how to keep going." She said, "I have tried to be good, and it has broken me." She put her hand on her stomach, and she said, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." What happened next on that riverbank is not something I can say with certainty. What I can tell you is what the fisherman, Papa Nwachuku, reported the following morning. He said he came to check his nets before dawn. He found a white wrapper on grandmother's stone. He found 2 bare footprints in the soft mud at the water's edge. And beyond those footprints, nothing. No struggle, no sound. Just the river, still, silent, moving the way it always moves, like it knows things it will never tell. By noon, the whole of Amafo knew. Adaeze was gone. Mama Chidima's screaming could be heard from the far end of the village. Young Emeka sat outside the compound and did not cry. He sat very still with his knees to his chest, and he stared at nothing for hours. That is the image I cannot forget. A 15-year-old boy, unblinking, staring at the space where his sister used to be. Now, here is where the story turns. Emeka Sr. knew something the rest of the village did not know, because Emeka Sr. had been the last person to speak to Adaeze. The night before she disappeared, he had gone to her. Not with rice, not with documents this time. He had gone with an ultimatum. He told her that if she did not agree to his terms by the end of that week, he would expose her pregnancy to the entire village. He would tell everyone it was his. He would destroy her name. He would make sure Tobena's family knew, that her mother's family knew, that no one in Amafo would ever look at the Okoye name without shame again. He said it calmly, the way powerful, wicked men speak, without raising their voice, because they do not need to. Adaize looked at him. She had said nothing. She had simply closed the door. And that night, she walked to the river. Emeka Sr. knew what he had done, but he is not the kind of man who admits what he knows. So, when the village gathered to search for her, he stood at the front. He wept. He donated money for the search. He told Mama Chidima, that suffering woman, he told her, "Don't worry, we will find her. She is like a daughter to me." He said this with wet eyes. He said this while the blood was still on his hands. The search went on for 3 days. On the 3rd day, they found her body, downstream, caught against the roots of an ancient tree. She was still in her white wrapper. Her face was peaceful. Her hand was still resting on her stomach. Now listen. Listen carefully, because this is the part that changed Amafo forever. The village gathered to prepare her burial. The plan was to bury her by the riverside. It is an old tradition for those taken by the water. You return them close to what took them. But there are always those who prefer a different kind of tradition, those who prefer shame over grief. Tobena's family, led by his mother, that woman with her sharp tongue and harder heart, they came to the burial gathering and they said that Adaize must not be buried with honor. They said she had brought disgrace. They said her pregnancy was proof of immorality. They whispered. They spoke into ears. They turned the village against a dead woman who could no longer speak for herself. Even in death, they found a way to try her. Emeka Sr. said nothing in her defense. He stood in the crowd and he said nothing. And because the voices of the wicked are sometimes louder than justice, the elders agreed. There would be no proper burial. Her body would be returned to the river, cast into the deep. This is done in old traditions for those the village has decided to reject. It is rare, it is cruel, and it had not been done in Amafo in living memory. Mama Chidima threw herself on the ground. She begged. She held the feet of elders. She said she was a good child. She was a good child. Please. They carried her away from the scene. Young Emeka tried to fight, a 15-year-old boy against grown men. They held him back. At midnight, because these things are done at midnight, when the world is not watching, 6 men carried Adaize's wrapped body to the deepest point of Odo-Ife-Uma. They counted, they swung, they released. The body entered the water, and then silence. Not the silence of something sinking, the silence before something impossible. The water went still, completely still, in a river that never stops moving. And then, like a hand pushing something away from underneath, Adaize's body rose. It did not drift. It did not float in the way of the dead. It moved deliberately, slowly, back toward the bank. It came to rest at the mud, face up, her wrapper still white, her hands still resting on her stomach. The 6 men stood frozen. One of them, Chibuike, a man who had never run from anything in his life, turned and ran. They all ran. By morning, the whole village knew the river had rejected her. Now, in Amafo, in the old knowledge of this land, when a river rejects a body, there is only one meaning. The river is saying this person was wronged. The river is saying there is a truth that has not been spoken. The river is saying, do not bury this shame in me. Find what is hiding on the land. The elders convened. The oldest among them, Ichie Ogwe Fidike, a man of 91 years with eyes that had seen things this world has forgotten. He sat in the center and he said, the river does not reject the innocent, and it does not reject the wicked either. The river only rejects the silenced. It means this woman's truth was swallowed before she could speak it. Someone here swallowed her truth, and until that truth comes out, this river will not take her. The village fell quiet. The kind of quiet that lands when everyone knows something, but no one wants to be the first to say it. Emeke Sr. was in that gathering. He sat with a straight back and a calm face, but his hands were pressed flat against his thighs, pressed so hard his knuckles had changed color. Young Emeke, the 15-year-old boy who had sat outside and stared at nothing for hours. He had not been idle. He had been remembering. He remembered the night 3 weeks before his sister disappeared, when he had come home late from his friend's house and heard voices behind the closed door. He had heard Emeke Sr.'s voice, flat, quiet, threatening. He had heard her sister's silence. He had not understood it then. He understood it now. Emeke stood up in the middle of that gathering, a 15-year-old boy. His voice did not shake. He said, "I know who silenced her." The gathering went so quiet you could hear the river breathing. He pointed. He said, "He came to our house that night. I heard him. He threatened her. He told her he would destroy our family. He is the reason she walked to that river. He did not push her in, but he pushed her there." He pointed at Emeke Sr. The whole village turned. Emeke Sr. opened his mouth. He said, "This child is grieving. He doesn't know what he's saying." But then another voice spoke. From the back of the gathering, a woman's voice, small, trembling. It was Ngozi, his wife, the woman who always looked at the ground. She was not looking at the ground today. She said, "He came home that night with mud on his shoes. I asked him where he went. He said nowhere, but he smelled of the river path." She said it once, quietly, and then she stopped talking. She had been holding that stone for years. She had finally put it down. The gathering erupted. People who had whispered against Adaize were now silent. People who called her disgraceful were now unable to look at Mama Chidima's face. Icho Ogwe Fidike raised his hand for silence. He looked at Emeke Sr. for a long time. He said only this: "The river has been waiting for you to confess. Not the law, not the village, the river. You do not want to know what happens to a man the river decides to pursue." Emeke Sr. broke. Not loudly, not dramatically. He broke the way old rotten wood breaks, suddenly, completely, with no warning and no way back. He confessed. He admitted what he had done that night. He admitted the ultimatum. He admitted the threats. He admitted that he knew what he was driving her to, and he had chosen to drive her there anyway. He wept. But here is the thing about certain tears. Some tears are repentance. Some tears are just a man realizing he has been caught. The village knew which kind these were. He was taken away. They prepared Adaize's body again, this time properly. Mama Chidima washed her daughter with her own hands, singing the song she had sung when Adaize was a baby. Emeke sat beside her sister's body and read aloud from the notebook where Adaize had kept her savings, the columns of numbers, every naira she had put aside for his school fees. He read every number, every entry, every naira she saved so that he could stand on solid ground. The women of Amafo came, quietly, without being asked. The ones who had whispered against her came too. Some of them could not look up, but they came. They brought food. They sat with Mama Chidima through the night. This is what African grief looks like when it is honest. It is loud and crowded and full of people who don't always know what to say, but know that silence is worse. At sunrise, because some endings must happen at sunrise, the village gathered at Odoi Feuma. This time, they were not there to cast her away. They carried her with honor, with songs, with the white smoke of incense moving upward through the trees. Ichie Ogwe Fedike spoke to the river. He said, "She has been heard now. The one who silenced her has been named. Her truth is no longer buried. Receive her, Odo. She is clean. She was always clean." They placed her gently in the water. and the river, that ancient, patient, unforgiving, and deeply merciful river, accepted her. The body did not return. The water moved around her like hands, like arms, like something old and knowing and kind. And then she was gone. Gone into the river, gone into the deep, gone into the place where silence finally becomes peace. The whole village stood on the bank. Nobody spoke. The birds were loud. The water was loud. And somewhere beneath it all, somewhere in the space between sound and feeling, many people would later say they heard something. Not a voice exactly, more like breath, warm, close, like someone standing behind you who loves you, like someone saying, "Thank you, I am at rest now. I am at rest." Mama Chidima still sells akara by the roadside. She is thinner now. Her hands shake slightly when the cold comes, but she smiles more than you would expect. She says Adaize comes to her in dreams, always in white, always calm, always with her hand resting gently on something the dream never lets you see clearly. Young Emeke graduated from the University of Nigeria in Nsukka. He studied law. He said it was for her. He still reads her savings notebook on her birthday every year, every column, every naira she saved so that he could stand on solid ground. As for Tobena, the man who looked at her and walked back inside, some people say he left Amafo, some people say he is still here and that he passes the riverside every morning on his way to the school where he teaches, and that he always walks a little faster at that stretch of road, that he never looks at the water. That the water, they say, always looks at him. The river remembers. I told you at the beginning that my name does not matter. That is true, but Adeze's name matters. Say it. Adeze. It means daughter of a king. She worked 2 jobs and carried her family's future on her back. She loved in secret because the world made love dangerous for her. She carried a child alone in silence because there was no space for her truth to be heard without being punished. She walked to a river at midnight, not because she was weak, but because the weight she had been handed by other people's cruelty had finally exceeded what one person can carry alone. And even after death, even then, the world wanted to bury her in shame. But the river said no. The river said her truth will be heard first. There are women in your life right now, in your family, in your neighborhood, in your church, in your office, carrying weight in silence, carrying things that would break most people, smiling so that you do not worry, going quiet instead of asking for help, because the world has taught them that their truth spoken aloud will be punished. Be the person who makes the truth safe to speak. Be the person who says, before it is too late, I see you, I hear you, you do not have to carry this alone. Because some truths, if we wait too long, the river is the only one left who will speak them. And by then, it is too late for us to say we did not know. The river remembers. It always remembers, and it does not lie.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe and click the bell. And don't forget to like and share. See you next time.